Psychology says that getting offended easily isn't a character flaw. It's a window into your nervous system. People who get offended easily aren't just as sensitive or looking for a fight. In fact, their brains are often wired for a heightened state of perception and self-protection. Your reactions are valid, and understanding the psychology behind them is the first step toward managing them. 1. High sensitivity psychology. People who are sensitive to offense often interpret casual comments as personal attacks, overanalyze conversations for hidden meanings, or feel deeply wounded by a slightly critical tone. Psychology calls this the trait of a highly sensitive person. Or HSP, their brains process emotional and sensory stimuli more deeply than others, meaning a passing remark that someone else might ignore can feel like a significant emotional event to them. What looks like oversensitivity is actually high sensitivity psychology at work. They're not weak. Their nervous system is simply wired to notice subtleties and process information with greater intensity, making them more susceptible to feeling hurt or misunderstood, to trauma and triggered responses. For some, getting offended easily is a direct result of past experiences. They might react strongly to criticism, even if it's constructive, perceive rejection in neutral social interactions, or feel a surge of anger or fear from a seemingly small comment. This is often what psychology calls a trauma trigger. Past trauma can sensitize the nervous system to perceived threats, rewiring the brain's threat detection system to be on high alert. A word, a tone of voice, or a specific situation can unconsciously remind their brain of a past hurt, activating a powerful fight-or-flight response. What appears as an overreaction is actually trauma response psychology. Their strong emotional reaction isn't about the present moment alone. It's their psychology trying to protect them from a pain they've felt before. 3. Low emotional resilience. People who struggle with getting offended may find themselves stewing over a minor slight for hours, unable to let it go when someone says something careless, or feeling their entire day is ruined by one negative interaction. This isn't a choice. It can be a sign of low emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is the psychological ability to adapt to stress and adversity. When it's low, the brain finds it harder to regulate emotions and return to a calm baseline after being activated. Their brain's emotional regulation circuits may be less efficient, meaning the off switch for feelings of hurt or anger is harder to find. They're not choosing to hold onto negativity. Their psychological system is struggling to bounce back from the emotional impact. 4. Insecurity and Self-Worth Issues. When someone's sense of self-worth is fragile, they often perceive criticism where none is intended, assume negative intent behind neutral questions, and constantly seek external validation to feel good about themselves. This is classic insecurity psychology. If you don't have a strong internal foundation of self-worth, your sense of value becomes dependent on what others think of you. Their brain becomes hyper-focused on scanning for social threats or signs of disapproval, because rejection feels like a fundamental threat to their identity. What looks like looking for a reason to be offended is actually their psychology desperately trying to protect a fragile sense of self. They aren't trying to be difficult. They are trying to defend the very core of who they believe they are. 5. Perfectionism and Criticism Sensitivity. People who are highly sensitive to offense can be their own harshest critics, setting impossibly high standards for themselves and then reacting with intense shame or defensiveness when they feel they've fallen short, especially if someone else points it out. Psychology links this to a pattern of perfectionism. For a perfectionist, their self-worth is often tied directly to their performance and achievements. Therefore, any form of criticism, no matter how constructive, is not just feedback, it's experienced as a personal failure and an invalidation of their effort and worth. Their brain interprets criticism as a major threat to their carefully constructed identity. They're not just being defensive. Their entire psychological framework is built on being flawless, and criticism shatters that illusion, triggering a profound emotional response. 6. Neurological differences. Beyond specific traits or past experiences, some people are simply born with a different neurological makeup. They might feel overwhelmed by loud noises or bright lights in the same way they feel overwhelmed by a sharp comment or find themselves emotionally exhausted after social events. This is due to neurological sensitivity. Their brain's threat detection system, particularly the amygdala, may be calibrated more sensitively from birth. This means it takes less negative stimuli to trigger a state of alarm or emotional distress. What looks like a dramatic reaction is simply their brain processing the world through a more sensitive filter. They're not overreacting. Their nervous system processes stimuli differently, making the world feel more intense and, at times, more threatening. 7. Cultural and values alignment. Sometimes, getting offended isn't about personal psychology, but about a deep-seated set of beliefs. A person might react strongly when they hear a comment that goes against their core moral, political, or cultural values, or feel personally attacked when someone dismisses something that is fundamental to their identity. This isn't just sensitivity. It's a values-based reaction. Our values form a core part of our identity, and when they are challenged, it can feel like a personal attack. Their brain's identity and social belonging centers are activated, interpreting the comment as a threat not just to themselves, but to their entire worldview and community. They are not just being politically correct or rigid. They are defending the very principles that give their life meaning and structure. People who get offended easily aren't weak or broken. Psychology shows they're either highly sensitive personalities, trauma survivors, or operating with insecurity psychology. Their reactions are their psychology trying to protect them. Understanding this doesn't excuse hurtful behavior, but it does replace judgment with compassion and opens the door to healing and better communication for everyone involved. If you're sensitive to offense or love psychology about emotional reactivity and personality types, subscribe because the next video reveals how to develop emotional resilience and understand your own psychology.